Hi. Someone. Good, the table outside. I see someone.
Topic modeling problems words to appear to have text. So words that repeatedly co-occur over the course of body writing or text grouped together are supposed to represent some kind of topic. But what that exactly means when we say topic is unclear, is obscure. So evident from scientific articles, but when thinking about in relation to other types of discourse, it becomes more complicated. Can this use terminology to represent models, see how topics are affiliated with one another, which are more closely related to the questions of discourses that goes together as a disciplinary, but also looking at how topics change and what this way of literary trends such as literature sensibility and such as and we've been applying this about using it to reflect modes and guide modes of close reading. And also to think about the topic as a form has a very important history in the 18th century. And mapping a transition from the idea of topic in terms of a rhetorical force that refers to a cultural storehouse of ideas that can be used to impose an oratory to topic as a way we can as a subject and a way to organize excerpts from writing or select passages based on what they talk about. So therefore the topics. I think this is really important for us as we think about the formation of literary studies because the anthology and commonplace books have already been recognized as these sort of critical sources for managing literary output. Is that how we make how Richardson Chrysalis made more usable by being anthologized, or Shakespeare here anthologized based on sort of popular evidence. This also appears in periodicals too, managing the output, especially obviously the Spectator will be the best example of the one that I'm working with today. But even beyond this sort of idea of sort of managing periodical, I think this method of mapping practical content would be interesting for thinking about how discourse and different genres are mixed within periodicals, and how a periodical becomes a way, serves as a way to think about its collectively and how this might offer an interesting way to move through different genres that matter. So the site we've created, it's called so the site we've created, we're showing the Spectator. We have first the editions of the Spectator. We can navigate them. We can also navigate our top index. And even just by looking at these, it shows how the topic is sort of problematic thing to interpret. One where we have maybe topic one seems to be quite intelligible. Addition. We can see where it appears most. 38, 238, 35. But we also have things like this. Words refer to Spectator's top more complicated to interpret. But even beyond these ones that show how co-occurrence is flattened and how that is problematic for interpreting the topic problem, we also have certain topics that seem to do interesting how we interpret it, which is this one. Figure one is meanings we see other topics it appears with, such as beauty, face, beautiful, seems to represent some idea of feminine beauty. If we go here, topic 4.1 is actually about sort of question. Think about decorum relative to decency. So if sex it for sexuality and feminine sort of association, also have about that. What's interesting then about this topic is that it refers to one that says both masculine and female verbs. If we come to this, we have a letter to the Spectator that refers to this promissory requirement, specifically observing a party of horsemen in which the writer sees a figure who's difficult to tell whether they're female. It talks about sort of different pieces of dress that seem to be associated with either sort of the way his tie is scarlet ribbon, his silver hat. But by the end of it, he decides that I'm not certain reality is a woman. This topic, in this case, seems to capture a discussion about this ambiguity about social norms. And it even concludes about how it should be more properly resembled. And he says that all needs to be desired is that they would be themselves. That is what nature designed them. They see their mistake when they depart from us. Let them find later that self-awareness of the woman learn existence of So this is one case, but it's interesting to think about how to really track this type of discussion through the Spectator. And so if we jump to another one, we see this topic reappear, and here we have once again another discussion about sort of complexity or ambiguity in dress. But this one is an especially interesting one because it's in the novel of Spectator 50 when Addison adopts the fact that he's found a letter or account written about a visit to England by visiting Iroquois kings and the reactions to the fashion of London, and specifically observing how the women in this country wear their heads above their hair and how they wear makeup, and about how this weird breeches, petticoats that seem to be Swift so wrote to Stella later this year, not shortly after, that this was his idea that the mission was steel, and that he had originally thought of maybe trying to do an entire work of this, but feared that steel had disposed of it. But this was not written by Steele to Addison. But it's another moment of sort of ambiguity or release from supposed Indian and American perspective of not being able to interpret fashionable modes. Skin can trace it forward in 119. We talked about here we have another layer added. Where in 119 we're discussing the differences between fashions in the country and in the city. So you see at the top it says, at first, the most obvious reflections that arise upon many changes in city upon the different manners of people when he meets and goes through the scenes of life. Our manners have not been known for behavior because they show themselves in the country. Part of this discussion refers how they dress, whereas the country seems to be over the period around the English Revolution, the wars, and boats, French, and so this sort of femininity and masculinity is further complicated by cultural rule and urban and how it affects each other. And the final one I'm going to sort of jump to in this topic that I think is also interesting is a question from 175, which is several letters addressing issues of different issues of sort of sex. But what's interesting is this final one, written by Jack Modish. Here, he complains of the inability to tell whether the new ribbons, the new fashions, are actually new fashions. And there's about sort of ribbon buttons adapted. But I think is what I'm especially interested in is how he concludes the letter when he recommends that there may be a society erected in London as a resource person for the inspection of modes and fashion. Something after all these instances of ambiguity that complicate issues of masculinity, femininity, the rural, urban, and problems of interpreting sort of dress or not how might this manifest itself in dress. We have this instance in which official society, some sort of body is imagined to regulate this problem. What's also interesting is that all these examples I showed you, 4 of them were written by someone else, namely by someone else. Sometimes they have a word, such as from 50 from 50, this one by John Hughes, but other cases, which is suppositions, such as the Indian writer in England, or here by the figure of Jack Loach. So what I think the student does is just another way to think about what it contains and how to move about it. So this is just sort of an initial recommendation that imagine something in which this is even further. Think about this using genre, or taking what we have even. Of course, Net Spectator is a very limited sample thing, while it includes other modes and other voices. There's obviously much more interesting types of paradigms that this could be applied to. Thinking about how the poetry appears in periodicals, how the narrative, how advertisements. On some level, this is an issue of accessibility, like what we can sort of make into text files and easily sort of process. But it also just allows us to track what these other sort of interesting ideas that we've seen in the novel, mythology, complex, and then located some of these distinctions in periodicals.